All right, we're resuming the recorded proffer of Ms. Maxwell. It is 2:16 on Thursday, July 24th, and the recording device is now on.
So when we stopped to take a break, we were talking about what has been publicly discussed as a black book or the Epstein list, and that's where we are. So you said you think you might know, or that you're aware of kind of the origin of this narrative.
Right. I just want to reiterate again, there is no list that I am aware of. I've never at any time, at least during the period of time when I was present.
Okay.
The origin of this story, I believe, begins, or it has a beginning in 2009, and then it has a prequel, but we have to start in 2009. In 2009, there is Epstein is, I think, out of jail. And there are civil suits taking place. Many of these are coming out of a disgraced law firm, Rothstein, Rosenfeld and Adler. At that law firm is a lawyer who started there in April, May 2009, called Brad Edwards. In 2009, allegedly, the FBI gets a call in October of 2009 from Brad Edwards. He allegedly tells them that he has come across a piece of evidence that belongs to Epstein that contains a list of all of his clients and victims, underage girls, massage therapists, and and the men who are having sex with them. And Brad Edwards becomes a cooperating witness, confidential informant for them, and in a sting operation obtains the list from a former butler of Epstein's called Alfredo Rodriguez. And it becomes evidence in the civil suit. Alfredo Rodriguez is subsequently prosecuted for having an AK-47 or something weird, some guns or something, and goes to trial, and there's a criminal complaint that the FBI produce, and in that criminal complaint it says that Brad Edwards became aware of the list, but we'll call it the list for the purposes of this, after Alfredo Rodriguez's 2 depositions that are held in Epstein's civil suit. It's in the FBI's affidavit that the evidence was collected, and Brad Edwards became aware of it after the 2nd deposition. It's in the criminal complaint. The truth is different from what's in both the criminal complaint and in that FBI affidavit, and in Brad Edwards' own statements on the subject. The truth is that Alfredo Rodriguez was deposed twice, once in July and once in August. And in the July deposition, told Brad Edwards that he had handwritten notes or a journal or whatever in the deposition. And Brad Edwards replies, well, we're going to come back for a second deposition. And the second deposition takes place in August. What this means is that Brad Edwards had access to the list from sometime between July and August until when he actually called the FBI in October. So we're talking 6 months or so. Rothstein's firm was raided a few days after the list went into the FBI's hands, and subsequently Rothstein himself was prosecuted for RICO and I believe went to jail for 50 years. As part of that RICO case, he admitted to, on the record, and was, I don't know whether he was prosecuted for creating fake settlements and fake evidence in Epstein's case. In 2009, simultaneously whilst this was going on, my boyfriend, Ted Waite, was asked for $10 million to keep me out of any of Epstein's civil suits. Up until then, I had not been in any of Epstein's civil suits. In fact, I wasn't even sure, save for the first time I was mentioned was by I was basically nowhere. And then Ted was called for this $10 million and had been shown, his people had been shown evidence that included the list, the flight logs, and various other pieces of evidence. Now we're going to the prequel part of this story, so then it can tie to how this starts. In 2007, Epstein signs the non-prosecution agreement. He then fights the prosecution agreement or debates it through the DOJ or whatever happened there, and goes to the court in 2008 when it's accepted or whatever that is. Villafana was the lead prosecutor, in that case, and she, I think, was not happy with the outcome, and utilized at that time Brad Edwards to file the CVRA case. Now, what I have managed to understand from this is within the OPR itself there is evidence. There it says that Brad Edwards was the only lawyer that she was allowed to talk to, so I just want to preface that. The reason why I know that she went behind Acosta's back and everything else to do this is because Brad Edwards, in a podcast, made the revelation. What he says is that he'd never heard of the CVRA case before, and Villafana called him and told him to file it. The sole purpose of the CVRA was to overturn the non-prosecution agreement. So what I believe is that Villafana worked with Brad Edwards, who she had also he was the lawyer that she had selected as a pro bono lawyer for some of the victims. And he was also working for Rothstein's firm that was under RICO investigation for that entire time, creating fake evidence in Epstein's case. And she had just filed hidden, secret, using Edwards to overturn the NPA by filing this CBRA case that's sole purpose was to overturn it. And so when he approached her with the list, this was part of the effort to utilize and find new evidence to support the overturning either of the NPA and or of a new case against Epstein. Because Brad Edwards, or I don't know if it was Brad Edwards, because Rothstein's firm asked my then boyfriend for $10 million to kick me out of suits that I had no knowledge of at that time whatsoever, I now know that the base of this story was a blackmail of a billionaire, because Ted Waite was a multi-billionaire. He had everything. He was way, way more wealthy than Epstein, if anyone cares. And that is the reason why Ted and I broke up. Or was the basis of it.
So,
and that list was created, so then the masseuses that were on that list, I had never heard of some of them. I not even from the civil suits that had come up since I've seen it. And this is me now knowing what's in the list today. And I believe that, Alfredo Rodriguez, so there's a metamorphosis of this list. So the original statement that Brad Edwards makes that's in the documents contemporaneously is that it's pieces of paper that Alfredo has. It then morphs into something that Alfredo took, a book that Alfredo took from Epstein's computer, but there's no computer, I know, certainly not in 2005 when this was allegedly taken, that came out as a book. And then it morphed into, at the civil time of my civil cases, into a book that was taken from my computer. And then it morphed into the Southern District of New York as a combination list of mine and Epstein's. That is a metamorphosis through documents that you can trace.
So there, in your mind, well, from what you just described, there is a list. It's just manufactured. I mean, have you seen the list even fake? Like, do you know?
I haven't seen it, but
So
what
I was confused.
So I guess my thing is that what Brad Edwards says in all of these things is in the paperwork and whatnot. And then, so all this story is basically controlled by 5 people. There's 4 alleged victims that speak about the list and the blackmail and the men and the sex and whatnot. And the lawyers, and now the prosecutors, sorry. The Southern District of New York for sure, but no one else. None of these stories carry from any of the 44 alleged original victims. They never ever say that they were farmed out to anybody.
But the list itself?
Yes.
Where is it?
There is no list, but Brad Edwards said
So
that he
that's what
created
I was a little
the
confused
list.
about.
Sorry, he created a list. So in that book that Alfredo Rodriguez produced that became evidence, Exhibit 52 in my trial, it has markings all over it, circles and dots and whatnot. And Brad Edwards says that he got Alfredo Rodriguez to mark up the book of all the people who were involved. It includes Alan Dershowitz, for the record, who's marked. I don't remember what it does with Donald Trump. I don't know. You'd have to look. I don't have it. But I believe, so what he did, he marked up, I don't know who, somebody marked up that book of names, and I think all the names of the people that they went for were originally selected between 2 sources. One was this alleged book of names, and one was also from the telephone logs that were collected from the house in Palm Beach. And just to finish it off, there is a note, I have some papers for you if you wanted them, where Brad Edwards says that he has a list of 25 men that he got money off.
So, okay, so the list that everybody, the black book, the list, what you're saying is that your Exhibit 52 from your trial, which is like more of an address book or Rolodex type thing, that Mr. Rodriguez, Alfredo Rodriguez, your understanding is that somewhere along the way he went through and kind of marked that list to say...
I don't know where that book actually comes from.
Okay.
I don't know what that book is. That book is some type of a compilation, but what it is it's just pieces of paper with type. So if you could have made a list. I could put... Oh, I wouldn't be so rude,
but you're referring to something that's been public for a long... I mean, if we're thinking about the same thing, you're talking about you're right, it's like a bunch of different types of paper or whatever. I only have a copy of it, but with big parts of it redacted publicly because
yes.
People's addresses and
yes,
whatnot.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yes. So you will find...
We're looking at Exhibit 52 now.
Okay, so you're looking at Exhibit 52. So the one they produced, the Southern District of New York actually produced a book for me to see it as evidence, the actual thing it was. And it has marks, it has tabs, it has things, it has names I've never seen. It had like that list of that list was basically the names that they choose to produce at trial. Now, in Rothstein Adler's firm, I also have some documents where Rothstein, his original scheme at Rothstein Adler was to place prostitutes. He had a bar, a dancey bar, where he had girls, and I believe he would use them and put them as fake secretaries in people's offices, and then she might touch him or he might touch her or something, and boom, he got $25,000 for that. And those girls, and I'm not saying that those are the girls that came in Epstein's case necessarily, but
but again, we're separating the evidence that came in at your trial and what you just talked about with Brad Edwards and Mr. Rodriguez. During the time that you were with Mr. Epstein, and even in the 2000s when you were around less frequently, you never observed or you never saw any sort of list or black book or a list of individuals who linked to certain masseuses or
absolutely
anything
no.
like that?
Absolutely no. There is no list. There is no... I'm not aware of any blackmail. I never heard that. I never saw it, and I never imagined it.
While we're on this topic, just again, I know we're jumping around and we've been going at it for a while, so I apologize. But there's recently been reports about a birthday book that you assembled for Mr. Epstein, I think for his 50th birthday in 2003.
That's true.
What do you know about that?
So, my mum did a birthday book for my father at his 60th. And when Epstein would talk about his 50th, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, it's a nice thing. So my mum did this book for my dad. And he said, I love that idea. He said, can you help coordinate it? And he organized he called a lot of the people himself. I coordinated the putting together of the book. And in some instances, I called people to ask them to contribute.
What was in the book? Like, what was the ask of the people you called?
It's his 50th birthday. Say anything you want on a piece of paper.
Okay.
I mean, nothing more than that.
Right. I mean, it was an obvious question, but you basically, his folks were invited to send something to you to celebrate his birthday.
Yes, to say happy birthday with, like, have a wonderful day or something else. There was no ask, but I wasn't responsible for everybody in that book, and there were people that he would ask himself to contribute.
And do you remember specific names of individuals who did send letters or who did contribute?
It's been so long, I want to tell you that I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
The article talks about several names, but including the focus of the article, which is on Donald Trump. Do you remember President Trump submitting a letter or a card or a note?
I don't.
Do you think the articles, do you remember seeing that book or any portion of the letters in your discovery in New York?
Yes.
Okay, what do you remember seeing?
I remember there were some portions of that book, but what surprised me, what surprised me was how few there were, because I thought if you had those, where are the rest? There was none of Mr. Trump.
In your discovery?
In my discovery, sorry. President Trump, there was nothing from President Trump.
And do you remember, but separate and apart from your discovery, do you remember one way or the other whether President Trump submitted a letter for his 50th birthday?
I do not remember.
And the article that references the letter talks about sounds like either a picture of a naked woman or something like that. Do you have any recollection of that?
I do not. But no, I don't.
Do you remember, so what do you remember seeing from your discovery around the book? Like you said, portions of it or some of the pages? What do you remember?
I remember there were maybe, so I just want to say about the discovery that I had about, maybe this is an exaggeration, I'm not sure, but in my mind it's about close to 5 million documents. It was a lot. And of that giant document dump that I received, I was only maybe as much as 30 to 35% I was never able to access. And this is documented at the court. And so I cannot say that I saw everything because I didn't.
Yeah, okay.
I just want you to know that. And I think that was by design.
But you do remember...
I do remember some pages.
Seeing some pages of the book.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember which pages you saw? Like from who had written those letters, or no?
I really don't remember.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Did you or so the same questions we've asked about some other individuals? Did you meet Bill Gates over the years?
Yes.
Because of your relationship with Mr. Epstein, or separate?
That one, well, I met Mr. Gates. I went to the TED conference. I went to TED conference and I actually spoke at the TED conference. Not the main stage, the sub-stage. And I also gave several TEDx's. And I met him there, but we weren't friendly, and I actually did meet him because I knew I don't know if he was chief of staff or whoever, Boris. And I met him, I think, once. I may have met him actually at 71st Street. I may have once. I don't remember if I met him there or at a restaurant. I don't remember. And that would have been because of Epstein, because Epstein was friendly with Boris, and Boris. That's all I remember.
Do you know whether Mr. Gates traveled with Mr. Epstein on his plane to any of his houses?
So if that friendship was after, it was in the late 2000s, so if I met him, like I said, I went to Epstein's house maybe once or twice, maybe I met him there, I don't remember.
So you don't...
So I wouldn't know if he had been on Epstein's plane.
And you don't recall ever being on like a plane with him flying to the island or to anywhere?
No.
Do you know somebody named Reid Hoffman?
I do.
Who's that?
Reid's a Silicon Valley guy.
Is what?
Silicon Valley.
And how do you know him?
Through my friends in San Francisco. I used to have a very close friend who was in San Francisco, who's part of that whole... I have several, actually, or had.
So is that a relationship you have kind of separate and apart from Mr. Epstein?
Oh, separate.
Do you know whether Mr. Epstein had a relationship with Reid Hoffman?
I don't know.
Did you ever observe Mr. Hoffman flying anywhere with you or Mr. Epstein?
No.
Or getting massages?
No.
So there's a list of multiple masseuses that is floating around. I think you had in your discovery. I think you were just talking about that. That list. Do you know how that list was created?
No. All that stuff that came out of that book, I now find suspect.
It's part of the story you just told us.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying it's all fake. I don't know what's real and what's not. I don't know what name is true. Now that it's been, to my mind anyway, now that it has been, without a doubt, contaminated and possibly fraudulent, I don't know. I mean, obviously the numbers that I recognize on my own, those are real, but how it was actually ended up put together and compiled and the purposes for it, for which then they blackmailed my boyfriend, now I'm just, no.
Over the years, when you were serving as like the general manager, so the mid-90s all the way into the 2000s, did you or do you know whether anyone maintained a list of all the masseuses, like a running list?
So there's three ways. So I know that the house itself, John Alessi had a Rolodex that he kept the names and numbers of all the people that came to the house so that he could call. So because I only was with Epstein even at best half the time. So when I was there, he had like his chief of staff who could find whatever he needed, and when I wasn't there, he had to rely on somebody else, right? So be that John Alessi or whoever else. So whoever was traveling with him or wherever he was, he needed somebody else to access information. So he had an assistant, chief, who was his secretary, who would be the one that would update his computer. You know, like everybody has an address book.
But was what you're describing, which it makes sense. Was that a list of masseuses or a list of people that might need to be contacted, which would necessarily include a lot of masseuses?
That's the latter.
And did you update that? Like, were you one of the people that would add names to it? Like, if a masseuse came and leaves and Mr. Epstein says yes, she was good, would you be part? Like, how was the list kind of maintained, or who maintained it?
Typically, no, because there would be an assistant who would do that. Plus, Epstein would not allow me to answer the telephone ever. So, or maintain or keep any of his messages in the office or at the house. So typically that wouldn't be, because I wouldn't be the one. Could I say to you I never did it? No, of course not, because that just seems ludicrous. But as a rule of thumb, the answer would be no.
During the 2007, 8, 9 the investigation out of the Southern District of Florida, so you said that you weren't contacted by law enforcement.
I was not.
After Mr. Epstein was charged, did you have conversations with him about the investigation?
He never talked to me about it.
Did you...
I mean, I can't, let's put it this way. If he did, I have no recollection of it. I mean, I'm sure he must have said, this is all whatever he said, or it's nothing, or whatever. I mean, I just don't have any... don't have any memory. I mean, I was with Ted. I was like gone. I mean, plus, I just didn't want to know either, I suppose.
So you don't know firsthand why the U.S. Attorney in Florida made the deal that he did? Meaning you weren't part of that discussion along the way. Like Mr. Epstein didn't say, "I'm getting a good deal," or, you know, something's happening with the case that's very good. You to the extent you know anything about it, it's just from what you've heard or read from others, not from Mr. Epstein. Is that right?
He never talked about the non-prosecution directly with me, no. But he did
But it's still enforceable as to her.
I mean, he never said, hey, are you happy with this deal, like that. But I understood. I mean, he never enjoined me to the MPA, but I understand that he included me specifically, and I'll tell you why.
Well, it's okay. You don't need to get into that.
No, I don't want to talk about the legal,
Yeah.
the what's on appeal. I'm just.
No, I would. Well, I wasn't.
The reason for my question, just to be, I'm not trying to hide something, but there's a very strong belief that he got a very good deal, and that he should have been sentenced to more time or got a different sentence from the feds than a non-prosecution agreement. And I'm not asking you to opine on that, but I'm wondering whether he ever talked to you about that, but it sounds like he didn't.
That he got a good deal? No. I think actually, well, his comments that I've read was that he didn't get a good deal, and I think that when he fought it so hard, it's because he didn't think he did.
When he was serving his sentence, were you around during that time, like when he was allowed to leave during the day or travel during the day?
I never called him, I never saw him, and I never went to the jail.
So I'm going to ask you questions that you shouldn't read into them. I just want to know whether they resonate with you. Have you ever had any contact with any representative that you know of from Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency?
Can you ask me that again?
Have you ever had any contact with an individual that you understand to be from Mossad, an Israeli intelligence agency?
Well, not deliberately.
Pardon me?
Not deliberately.
Okay. And did you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but just to put a finer point on it, did you ever know that were you ever told, you ever think that Mr. Epstein was getting any money from any intelligence agency, including Mossad?
Well, I don't believe so, but I wouldn't know. I mean, I would be very surprised if he did. I don't think so. No.
We've talked about a lot of names, and I'm sure there's some that we haven't covered. Are there any foreign nationals? So right now we've talked about some British, the royal family a little bit, and maybe high society folks in Britain. Were there any international businessmen or politicians that had a very close relationship or a close relationship with Mr. Epstein that we haven't already talked about?
Off the top of my head, I can think of Ehud Barak.
You said that Mr. Epstein, at some point in the mid to late 90s, he started taking testosterone. Did you ever know him to take any other drugs?
No. I mean, he took pills for his heart, I think. But no substances.
What do you know anything about his heart condition? I know we talked about this at 9:45 this morning, but do you know anything about his heart condition beyond that you understood he had a heart condition that affected his ability to have sex?
Other than what he told me, no, he never shared anything, but he did take pills. I don't know anything about that. And like I said, he did the testosterone, which made him mean.
And we're jumping around a little bit.
Right.
Sorry. Do you know someone named Donald Barr?
No.
He is, I can represent to you, was the former headmaster of the Dalton School, which you mentioned earlier.
Oh, right.
Do you remember any conversations with Mr. Epstein about a book that Mr. Barr wrote called Space Relations?
I've never heard of that.
About aliens and sex?
No.
Do you know have you ever met the former Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr?
No.
Do you remember whether Mr. Epstein knew him or whether his name ever came up in conversations you had with Mr. Epstein?
I don't recall any.
Okay. Did you have a relationship, or no? I'm using relationship, and I appreciate you don't like that word. Did you know Mr. Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein?
Yes,
How did you know him?
through Jeffrey.
How would you describe your relationship? Close, friendly?
My personal?
Yes.
Not that close, but friendly enough. I mean,
How was Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with his brother Mark, from what you observed?
I mean, they were brotherly, but I think that I don't know. There had periods when they were closer, and then when they weren't. I think sometimes Epstein found his brother irritating.
And I think I know the answer, just given what you just said about Bill Barr, but did you ever hear any from Mr. Epstein or anybody else that Bill Barr had any role in Mr. Epstein getting a good plea deal in Florida, or any role in that process with Mr. Acosta?
I never heard that.
I think you said this in an interview, but if I'm wrong, forgive me. Do you have a view of Mr. Epstein, of whether he committed suicide or whether something else happened?
Can we take a
Wanna
break?
take a break?
there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can take a break. Yeah, sure. Actually, it's a good time to take a break anyway, because this will be the last one of the day.
All right, so we're going to take a break at it's 2:53, Thursday, July 24th. We are continuing with the recorded proffer of Ms. Maxwell. The time is now 3:10 p.m., Thursday, July 24th.
My colleagues alerted me to a couple questions I think I may have forgotten to ask you. One is, sorry, I'm just going through my notes. Well, we talked a few minutes ago about this birthday book that there's been press about. I understand you don't remember anything with President Trump, or a lot about the book anyway. Do you remember asking President Trump to submit a letter for that?
I do not.
And do you remember, would you have been the one to do that, or would somebody else have done that?
I did ask some people. I don't remember Mr. Trump. I don't remember who I did ask, but Epstein also asked people himself directly.
Okay.
So it could have happened that way, if it happened at all.
I'm trying to find on the... Where is that?
You mentioned Ehud Barak.
Yes.
What was his involvement?
This would have been in the later 2000s, so I do not know how they met, but I do know that they, I don't know if friendly would be the right word, I don't know that, but I know that they saw each other, and only because my father, anything that touches Israel or the state of Israel, I'm always interested in, because my father loved Israel, and so I pay attention to it, and we have ties to Israel.
When you said it was later, though...
Ties meaning friends and family relations.
Was the President, was Mr. Barak, or Prince Barak, do you know what the nature of his relationship was with Mr. Epstein?
I don't.
Do you know, were you ever with them together?
I think I have a memory of meeting Ehud, but I don't know if he was with Epstein, or I don't remember. I just know that I did see him, and I'm struggling to remember the context around it. But I'm sure it happened, but it must have been very brief, because I don't have any serious memory of it, any deep memory of it.
And maybe this is obvious.
And maybe it comes also because I've read it in the press. That's maybe something that brought it to my memory. So that's also, I think the press has been very contaminating. So it's hard sometimes to separate those stories from, your memory sometimes.
Do you know a British gymnast by the name of Heather Mann.
Yes.
Did she?
I didn't know she was a gymnast.
Oh, okay. I'm reading something that says she was a gymnast, but
Okay.
please don't assume that that's correct.
Okay.
Based upon my words.
Okay.
Did she ever travel with you and/or Mr. Epstein?
Yeah, she did actually. I think that she might have been one of Mr. Epstein's girlfriends at some point.
What? Again, I know we're talking about time periods that are vast. What time period would that have been? Like after you, like since 2000?
I want to say, I don't know, could be the 90s, I don't know. But I mean, listen, there are people that pop out of the woodwork all the time. I just saw one on TV saying she was his girlfriend in 93 and 94. So, I mean, he obviously was very busy.
Or she's lying.
Well, there's that.
Did someone named Mark Middleton?
Yes, I
Who's
remember
that?
him. He was in the Mr. Clinton's administration, President Clinton's administration, I think.
And how do you know him?
I met him, and I met him through Mr. Epstein.
And was he, from what you observed, was he a friend or business acquaintance with Mr. Epstein?
I mean, I only saw him a handful of times, but I did see him with him. I mean, he seemed friendly. I don't know if I would characterize. I mean, having seen him briefly, I don't know how to characterize that.
Do you know whether he flew on airplanes with Mr. Epstein? Did he visit the island? Do you know anything about that or their relationship as it relates to that?
I don't have any recollection of seeing Mark Middleton at the island.
How about former U.S. Senator George Mitchell?
Yeah, I do remember George.
What do you remember about him?
I travelled with him. We went to the most memorable day. I went to. Well, I was friendly with his wife. Start with that, with Heather. And Heather was in New York, so I hung out with her a few times. We had dinners, and I was just friendly, I would say. Separately from her husband, was friends with Heather. I met Heather through her husband, but we became friends.
You became friends with Heather.
Yes.
Was Mr. Epstein friends with Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Did they travel together besides New York? Did they travel to the island or to New Mexico?
I don't remember George ever at the island, but the most memorable trip I do recall with Senator was to Italy.
Was to where?
To Italy.
Ah, okay.
We went to Rome.
As the four of you? So Heather and Mr. Mitchell and you and Mr. Epstein?
That's my recollection.
And what were you there for?
The most memorable aspect of that trip is we went to the Vatican. It was extraordinary. And the most extraordinary thing was going to the archives and holding Henry VIII's document to the Pope, asking for his divorce.
Do you know the former president of Colombia, Andres Pastrana?
Yes.
How do you know him?
I met Andres Pastrana in a pub in Dublin.
And did he travel with Mr. Epstein that you know?
I don't know if I don't know if he was ever on the plane. I don't think he ever came to the island. But I went 2 places with Andres Pastrana. One was to Colombia, and Epstein came to that, and the other was to Cuba, and Epstein was there, and Pastrana was there.
And what were the purposes of traveling to Colombia than Cuba?
I'm a helicopter pilot, and Andres is a helicopter pilot, and we just became friends, and I flew a Black Hawk in Colombia.
And how about to Cuba?
I have a friend of mine who was the cigar distributor for Monte Cristos maybe, I can't remember which cigar it was. And so we went there, and he organised the trip, and we met Fidel Castro.
When was that approximately?
Had to be 2002, 2003.
Okay.
Something like that, I think.
There's some more names that we might talk about tomorrow with the same type of questions. But as far as a catch-all, there's been a tremendous amount of public information about all kinds of names, including some of the folks we talked about today, and their relationship with Mr. Epstein and/or you. For any of the folks that we've talked about today, did you observe them doing anything improper with Mr. Epstein, whether with masseuses or with women or girls who were traveling, or at the residences that they were at, or at the parties that they were at?
I did not ever at any time see that.
And for any of the names we've talked about today, and then tomorrow we'll talk about some more, but for today, do you recall having any conversations with anybody else where they reported to you that they had seen something that one of these individuals had done, whether someone else that works with Mr. Epstein or somebody that observed something?
If anybody had ever reported anything, first of all, the answer to that is no. And also, I just want to be clear that had anybody ever reported anything illegal or disgusting like that, I would have immediately done something. And I never heard it, I never saw it, and no one ever complained to me, or tears, nothing like that.
Okay. All right. So we took a break when we were talking about Mr. Epstein and his death. Oh, bless you. That's okay. Take your time. So Mr. Epstein and his death. So you were not obviously at the MCC during that time, correct?
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Thought you were giving it to me.
I think I've got something blew up my nose.
So just take some
Like a
water, it's
flaw.
okay, no problem. You were not at the MCC during that time, correct?
I was not.
So you're going to tell us what you believe, but I just want to make sure I understand. Your basis for belief is kind of what you've read and seen, and your knowledge of Mr. Epstein for the many years you knew him, right?
And actually, there's a third component.
Okay.
The answer to that is yes, and
Okay.
there's a third component to that, which is having experienced now the mismanagement and inefficiencies and total dereliction of duty at the Bureau of Prisons.
From BOP, from the Bureau of
Yes.
Prisons. Okay, fair. Okay, so, what I do want to be careful about is, asking you to speculate, because anybody can do that, and I don't think that's fair to you or anybody else to ask you to give us your kind of opinion, but do you think that the third point you say, which is kind of a failure by the BOP, there's been there's an OIG report, there's an SDNY investigation about that. You think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
And I ask that because if you don't believe that there's any truth to the allegations of blackmail, or that he had kind of a list, or that he had reasons to have people hate him, why would somebody kill him in prison?
Well, in prison, where I am, they will kill you, or somebody can pay a prisoner to kill you $25 worth of commissary is about the going rate for a hit with a lock today.
So that goes to the third reason, which is kind of the mismanagement or
Yes.
the shortfallings or shortcomings of the Bureau of Prisons.
Yes.
Which is a little bit different than my question is, which is, do you think there's somebody on the outside of prison, so putting aside what could happen on the inside, on the outside of prison, who wanted him dead so badly that he would have, or she would have, caused him to be killed on the inside?
I think I don't see that. I think, is it possible? Of course it's possible, but I don't know of any reason why, and I don't believe in the blackmail or in any of this. I don't think Epstein had a hit on like that. If it is indeed murder, I believe it was an internal situation.
Yeah, so you don't have any reason, first-hand knowledge, or even speculation, it sounds like, to think that that he was killed to kind of silence him or to keep him from going public about people he knew about.
I don't. No, because I think that is just part of the story that's been created that started back in 2008-9.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. Like, I don't think there's value in talking. There's been a lot of information about what happened, in the MCC, but what is important to me is whether, if is the idea that he didn't die by suicide. That's one thing, but if to the extent that folks believe that he was murdered to keep him quiet or because he had information on rich and powerful people, do you have any reason to believe that that's true?
I do not have any reason to believe that, and I also think it's ludicrous, because I also happen to think if that is what they wanted, they would have had plenty of opportunity when he wasn't in jail.
Yeah.
And if they were worried about blackmail or anything from him, he would have been a very easy target.
In the time, so we've talked about a lot of time all the way up through 2009-10, and then the time that after Mr. Epstein was arrested. When's the last time you spoke with him?
Maybe 2016, 2017, maybe 2016, 2015, 2016, 2017, in that area, I believe.
And what when you're thinking about that last time, was that you had been talking to him a lot and then you stopped, or was that a one-off time and it was infrequent at that point?
I really wasn't in communication. The only communications I had with him was with regards to the civil suits. The civil suit that I found myself in, the defamation suit I found myself in. I needed help. I needed information, and I didn't have what I needed. And so that was really what drove it, was me trying to get myself out of this situation, which I ultimately led to where I am today. And so when that, I don't remember even if I stopped talking to him before that. I thought he was angry with me anyway. He didn't like what I did, and I wasn't interested in what he had to say to me. And
what did you think he was angry with you about?
I think he was angry that I had even said that I had referred to her being a liar. He said I should have not said anything, but
when the civil suits that were ongoing before Mr. Epstein's death,
yes.
Did your lawyers coordinate with his lawyers, like in discovery and things like that, on anything?
I don't think we coordinated in I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak. There was some degree of communication, for sure. I just don't know the degree that took place. So definitely, I was definitely hoping for him to be more helpful, and I was definitely, coordinating is not a good word because that sounds like I was trying to align myself. That's not where we were going here. But I was definitely trying to get help, as in documents or information that I could use to defend myself. That's 100% true. And the degree to which that took place, I don't recall. There was definitely some of that, though. I don't want to mislead you.
And we touched on this earlier, but I just want to, I don't think we really ran it to ground maybe as much as we could. Like, going up through that time, so in the 16, 17, 18, up until the time he's arrested, had your view or your understanding of what had happened changed? Meaning, did you believe that in the late 90s or early 2000s when he started, behaving much differently, did you believe what you were hearing about him at that point?
My views, I didn't like the people he was with anyway, so I don't find, how do I say this? I like people who my age or older, and I don't find the society or the companionship of younger people who are younger people, I suppose, really that enjoyable. So I don't like the company that he chose to be with, and so I find it boring and fundamentally uninteresting. That's probably the nicest way I can say it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what we should do is just spend a few minutes talking about tomorrow. Everything was great today. I think that it was very helpful, and I appreciate you trying to be as complete as you can. I think tomorrow, you've said a few things today about materials that you brought. When we're done, we'll give you a few minutes with Mr. Marcus to if there's things that you want to show him that you think we should see. Like I said, I'm not asking you to corroborate anything. If I was asking you to corroborate something, I would tell you, but if there's something you think that you don't think that the government has seen, or you think that is important for me to see, let Mr. Marcus know, and he can share it with me. Tomorrow, we'll certainly have some follow-on questions when we all think about tonight, and I think you will too. We can all think about stuff we've talked about. We covered a lot of different areas. I do want to talk more about you. So by design today, we wanted to focus on Mr. Epstein and talk about kind of everything under the sun that we've gone through today. I do think it's important when we all evaluate what you've said today and kind of your story, to also understand why you're here, right? So you were indicted, you were charged, you went to trial, and I want to do that in a way that gives you an opportunity to kind of say your piece, or to say what you haven't said before, but also understanding that there was a people who took the witness stand and swore to tell the truth and testified about you and what you did and what they think you saw and what they heard you say, and I'm not. I said to Mr. Marcus, I'm not trying to create a kind of a she said situation or he said she said situation, but I do want to hear from you about your conduct, because it's important, I think, for when we evaluate what you say and how you say it, and your recollection of things, to talk about that. So we'll do that tomorrow. I want to talk about the circumstances leading up to your arrest. There's a lot of, I think, misinformation, or there's a lot of information out there that I don't know whether it's misinformation, but about the time from 2019 up until the time that you were arrested. And then, like I said, that'll take us through lunch tomorrow, and then we'll be done. I don't have a plan. I didn't know that I was coming here until this week. Okay, so I'm not. There isn't like we don't have like a schedule of what happens next or what happens. But that's not a negative thing. I'm just saying that that's, so you shouldn't take the lack of a next step as anything other than we don't have a next step yet. So.
May I say something?
Of course, yes.
I just would like to put out there that I also focused on how I think the president got swept into some of this, unnecessarily, by the way. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I certainly don't subscribe to all of everything that I see, but I do believe that there is animus in some areas that may have contributed to how the use of the president to harm him that I find deeply offensive. And whilst I can't obviously say definitively that is what it is, I would like to show you what I see so that you can evaluate it and do with that as you see fit, if it needs to be addressed. I've seen it. It struck me, and I would like to give it to you for what it's worth. Okay. Does that seem something that I can...
that's fine. Yeah, of course.
I don't like that.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. That's great. Okay, so why don't we stop for today? I'll give you a little bit of time to chat, and then see you in the morning.
Thanks, Alfred.
This will conclude the recorded proffer interview for Thursday, July 24th. We will continue tomorrow, Friday, July 25th. The time is 3:34.